Provo Buck with a final cheerfulness, "and by good fortune down a well-lighted road, though it twists about. Forward!" As they moved along the last 300 yards of their journey, Buck fell for the first time in his life, perhaps into a kind of philosophical reverie, for men of his type are always made kindly and, as it were, melancholy by success. "I am sorry for poor old Wayne, I really am," he thought. "He spoke up splendidly for me at that council, and he blackened old Barker's eye with considerable spirit. But I don't see what a man can expect when he fights against arithmetic, to say nothing of civilization. And what a wonderful hoax all this military genius is. I suspect I've just discovered what Cromwell discovered, that a sensible tradesman is the best general, and that a man who can buy men and sell men can lead and kill them. The thing's simply like adding up a column in a ledger. If Wayne has 200 men, he can't put 200 men in 9 places at once. If they're ousted from Pump Street, they're flying somewhere, and if they're not flying past the church, they're flying past the works, and so we have them. We business men should have no chance at all, except that cleverer people than we get bees in their bonnets that prevent them from reasoning properly. So we reason alone. And so I, who am comparatively stupid, see things as God sees them, as a vast machine. My God, what's this?" And he clapped his hands to his eyes and staggered back. Then through the darkness he cried in a dreadful voice, "Did I blaspheme God? I am struck blind." "What?" wailed another voice behind him, the voice of a certain Wilfred Jarvis of North Kensington. "Blind!" cried Buck. "Blind!" "I'm blind too!" cried Jarvis in an agony. "Fools, all of you!" said a gross voice behind them. "We're all blind. The lamps have gone out." "The lamps? But why? Where?" cried Buck, turning furiously in the darkness. "How are we to get on? How are we to chase the enemy? Where have they gone?" "The enemy went," said the rough voice behind, and then stopped doubtfully. "Where?" shouted Buck, stamping like a madman. "They went," said the gruff voice, "past the gasworks, and they've used their chance." "Great God!" thundered Buck, and snatched at his revolver. "Do you mean they've turned out?" But almost before he had spoken the words, he was hurled like a stone from a catapult into the midst of his own men. "Notting Hill! Notting Hill!" cried frightful voices out of the darkness, and they seemed to come from all sides, for the men of North Kensington, unacquainted with the road, had lost all their bearings in the black world of blindness. "Notting Hill! Notting Hill!" cried the invisible people, and the invaders were hewn down horribly with black steel, with steel that gave no glint against any light. Buck, though badly maimed with the blow of a halberd, kept an angry but splendid sanity. He groped madly for the wall and found it. Struggling with crawling fingers along it, he found a side opening and retreated into it with the remnants of his men. Their adventures during that prodigious night are not to be described. They did not know whether they were going towards or away from the enemy, not knowing where they themselves were or where their opponents were. It was mere irony to ask where was the rest of their army, for a thing had descended upon them which London does not know, darkness, which was before the stars were made, and they were as much lost in it as if they had been made before the stars. Every now and then, as those frightful hours wore on, they buffeted in the darkness against living men who struck at them, and at whom they struck with an idiot fury. When at last the grey dawn came, they found they had wandered back to the edge of the Uxbridge Road. They found that in those horrible eyeless encounters the North Kensingtons and the Bayswaters and the West Kensingtons had again and again met and butchered each other, and they heard that Adam Wayne was barricaded in Pump Street. End of Book 4, Chapter 1.